After you hit product market fit, it's time to actually scale the company. And in the pre-product market fit stage, everything's experimental. But once you get past that stage, it's all about operational ruthlessness. It's about operating your company. It's about establishing a business cadence. It's about aligning all the VPs you're hiring. It's crazy times, awesome times, but you got to have the right tools to ensure that you're aligning everybody and you're actually making sure you create this environment where everyone's pushing as hard as possible without burning out. And so in this episode, I'm going to walk you through the 4 principles that you absolutely need to know to actually establish a business cadence for your SaaS business, scale effectively, and ensure everyone's pushing as hard as possible without burning out to get to that next stage of growth. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you grow your SaaS businesses faster with an unstoppable strategy. Now, if you are new to this channel, welcome. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and that bell icon. That way you get notified every single time I drop an episode with actionable strategies on how to grow your SaaS business with the TK energy. Now, if you're already part of this community, if you're part of this channel, if you're part of my SaaS coaching programs, my people, welcome back. It's really awesome to see you over here. Now, I remember that moment when we raised our Series A for ToutApp, my last SaaS company, and we were moving out of our 14-person WeWork office. We were only 6 employees at that time, but we had hit $1 million ARR, and we were moving into our own floor. We had this entire floor in downtown San Francisco in one of the buildings. And we were moving in and everything was getting set up. At the same time, I was hiring these VPs. I was hiring a VP of customer success, a VP of sales. I was bringing out a director of sales development. It was crazy times. And I realized very quickly that we were no longer in that space of like, hey, let's figure out what works. That was how we got here. We're now on a period of, we know what works. We need to execute as effectively as possible and make sure that everyone's pushing as hard as possible to drive for success. And this was one of those things where, those instructions don't really come with a venture capital check. You kind of have to figure out on your own, like, what are the key pieces we need to make sure that we're pushing hard, to make sure that we're all aligned, to make sure that we're checking on the right things on a weekly basis, to make sure that we actually hit our growth goals that we promised our investors, to make sure now that we're on the venture treadmill, we can get to that next stage of growth so that we can raise that next round. These were all things that were super important. And if you fast forward that year, after we moved into that office, we had 300% growth. And then we went on to raise our Series B from Andreessen Horowitz. It was an incredible year. And I learned a few things. And I learned a few things on how to scale, how to put in the right operating system to scale, and how to ensure that all the people you bring in are able to scale the company and push as hard as possible without burning out, which is super important for you as CEO to manage for. And so we're gonna walk through the 4 principles that you absolutely need to know to actually scale your company by establishing a proper business cadence. If you're excited to dig in, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. And let's go to principle number 1. Principle number 1 is you gotta actually have a proper financial plan and bring on either a fractional CFO or a CFO. If you're in the early stages, you'll likely bring on a fractional CFO. If you're in the mid stages, and mid to late stages, like in the 100 million ARR journey, you'll probably bring on an actual CFO. Either way, you need to make sure that you have a proper financial plan. I have this thing, I only found out about it recently, I have this thing called numblyxia. It's kind of like dyslexia, except instead of words being jumbled, numbers end up being jumbled. So unless in a spreadsheet, everything is color-coded, I literally don't know how to engage with it. And so I always had trouble with financial plans. I had trouble with P&L statements. Like literally my brain would not be able to process it. And so I always really, really heavily counted on the fractional CFO we had, the biz ops person that we had to really help me understand like, okay, what's going on in the business from a numbers perspective. And I realized the value of that when I truly brought on smart people that really dug into it. My favorite CFO firm, especially when it comes to SaaS, is Ativo Partners. You can check them out here. I'll link to it below. They're really great. They have amazing CFOs and they help SaaS companies actually help. This is not sponsored. I just really like them. I really highly recommend them. I've worked with their managing director in the past. They were my fractional CFO. And what they were able to do was help me really understand all the moving pieces in the business from a numbers perspective. It really helped us understand where we are, where do we need to go, where can we actually improve, and that was super important. Before that, I kind of looked at the financial plan as a formality in the board meeting. After that, I learned to use it as a tool to really understand the pulse of the business. So for you, if you really connect with P&L statements, then awesome, good for you. If you don't, then find a really great partner that can partner with you to help you understand that and help you feel those moving pieces. Because when you look at that on a monthly basis, and you should look at that in a monthly basis, you should have time set aside with your partner to look at it. It'll help you understand how the business is moving and what course corrections you need to make at the top. It's super, super powerful. Principle number 2 is on a weekly basis, looking at pipeline coverage. Now, pipeline coverage, a lot of people don't realize this, but it's the lifeblood of every SaaS business. And you need to have a 3x to 5x pipeline coverage. What that means is if you're trying to hit a certain number, whatever your revenue number is for this quarter or for this year, you need to commit to generating 5x of that pipeline. You need to commit to generating maybe 3x, but more likely 5x, depending on how conservative you want to be. And I always like to look at pipeline coverage because it helped me understand across sales development and marketing and partnerships. We didn't have partnerships in ToutApp, but we had it in Marketo. It helped us understand, are we generating enough pipeline to even stand a shot at hitting our number? A lot of times, like sales has a 20% win rate, but if we don't have the pipeline, that 20% win rate doesn't even matter. And so a lot of times it's too late. And so it's super important to understand early on, are we generating enough leads? Are we generating enough awareness? Are we generating enough pipeline? And are we hitting that 5x pipeline coverage number? And we looked at that every week because that helped us understand, do we even stand a chance at hitting our number? And if not, what do we need to tweak? Where do we need to put in more money? What do we need to cut to actually make up for that? So number 2 is pipeline coverage. Now, before I go into number 3, let me just pause here for a second. Are you starting to see the power in this? Are you starting to see the power on some of these tools and making sure you have this weekly meetings and these monthly meetings, one with your CFO, one with your pipeline team, will actually change how you operate the business because you'll be looking at what matters. It's not about culture. It's not about rah, is everyone feeling good? It's about the cold hard numbers. And once you have the cold hard numbers, then you earn the right to focus on all these other things that are just as important. If you're starting to see the power in this, can I just get a yes in the comments below? Also smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It really likes it when you do that. Now, if you're in this stage, if you're in the multiple millions of ARR stage, you're driving to 100 million ARR, whether it's next year or in the coming years, and you want a framework to follow on how to scale your business, establish a business cadence, establish a growth strategy, up-level your strategic narrative, this is exactly why I created my SaaS Scale and Strategic Narrative program. I'll tell you more about it at the end of this video. You can also check it out at tkcater.com/scale. I'll link to it below as well. But let's go to principle number 3. Principle number 3 is you need to have a sales pipeline and deal review. This was religious at ToutApp and also at Marketo. We used to have a global pipeline review every week. It was like Thursday at 3 p.m. at Marketo. At ToutApp, we used to do it Mondays. What you need to do is actually go through your pipeline, go through your deals. And a lot of times, there was a before and after. There was a before where, like, as CEO, I'm like, sales will take care of that. And then I learned to embrace sales and start to embrace that more because if the CEO is not involved in the deal-by-deal review, then you won't be as successful. You just won't. Because when you're going through the deal reviews, you'll start to understand who are the customers. Are there people in your network that you can reach out to help move deals along? Are there things that salespeople are missing? Is there any way you can add executive support to really move a deal along? There's so many levers you can pull to ensure deals close, especially as you get into more sophisticated deals. And so it's super powerful to actually have a pipeline and deal review on a weekly basis to ensure that everyone has proper deal hygiene, everyone is following up on deals, we're truly understanding where deals sit, if there's a likelihood of closing, is it this quarter or is it pushing, and that will allow you to accurately forecast. Subtle difference between the pipeline coverage and the deal review. This is more about closing the deals. This is more about, are we even getting enough at-bats? And it tends to be different teams, so you want to look at these separately and optimize them separately to ensure success. All right, number 4 is actually, this is slightly different. A lot of this stuff is around the numbers, around the business. It's the sales, the marketing, the finance, right? But the last piece that's missing that's equally important is your product roadmap review. Right? You need to look at product roadmap. And one of the toughest things as you start to scale is that there's this opposing force between actually doing work that increases the stability of the product versus actually driving momentum around the product. This is super subtle, but it's super important. There's going to be a bunch of stuff that you need to do that are bug fixes, that improves things. Inevitably, there's going to be engineers or engineering leaders that are like, we need to rewrite the whole thing, right? That's what I call stability work. But at the same time, in order to stay relevant in the market, in order to compete, in order to stay ahead of the competition, in order to actually close deals, there's going to be momentum feature requests. And so what you need to do is figure out with your VP of engineering how to actually optimize for both. How do you actually do enough stability, but also enough momentum? How do you actually drive it at a certain cadence? And how do you actually deliver on features that really matter once a quarter, that excites customers, that marketing can use and sales can use to really drive deals? This is super important. And ultimately, like, I learned this the hard way. At one point at ToutApp, we went from being the fastest engineering team in SaaS to the slowest, and that sucked. And one of the things that I learned the hard way is what matters the most is agility. Agility and speed of execution is literally the only thing that matters. And so as you're working with your VP of engineering, you need to figure out what is the product roadmap going to be and how do you ensure speed to delivery every single quarter in terms of momentum features, and at the same time, you're increasing the stability of the actual product and the platform. So let's recap over here. In order to establish a proper discipline on how you run the cadence of the business, you need to drive this ruthless execution so you can get to that next stage of growth, and you can actually make sure everyone's pushing as hard as possible without burning out, and they're also celebrating. These are the toolings that you want to put and the things you want to review on either a monthly or weekly basis. Number one, financial plan. You want to do this on a monthly basis and really understand the levers around the business. Number two, pipeline coverage. You want to do this on a weekly basis and make sure you have 3 to 5x pipeline and your team is adjusting accordingly to ensure that. Number three, you want to do a deal review. You want to do that weekly to make sure deals are set to close and set up for success. And number four, you want to do a product roadmap review. This one could be every month to ensure that engineering is committed to stability and momentum, right? The right balance between the two. And they're actually optimizing for agility because that's all that matters. If you got value from this, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Also, if you're at that stage where you're scaling your SaaS business, you're at multiple millions of ARR, and you're driving to the 100 million mark, this is exactly why I created my SaaS Scale and Strategic Narrative program. Inside of this program, we give you an actual framework to follow to actually build a growth strategy for your SaaS business. We teach you how to understand what's going on in terms of the competitive dynamics, and we also work with you to up-level your strategic narrative so you can compete better, align your executives, and actually build out a growth strategy and execute. So this program is new. It's got a bunch of CEOs in it that are getting so much value. I'm really excited about it, so we're promoting it more. To learn more about it, just go to tkcater.com/scale. tkcater.com/scale. I'll link to it below as well. And in it, you'll get all the details around the program, and you'll get a link in there to actually apply to join. And then we'll get on a call and see if we can help or not, and if you're the right fit. Super easy. Just go to tkcater.com/scale. Now, I drop a video like this 2 to 3 times a week on actionable strategies on how to grow your SaaS business. So be sure to hit the subscribe button and that bell icon. That way you will get notified every single time I drop an episode. If you have a fellow founder, a fellow CEO group that would get value from this video, please share this video with them. We put a lot of love into them. It would mean the world to us. And lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. But when you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'm TK, and I'll see you in the next episode, or our strategy call for the SaaS Scale program. Either way.